Excuse me. Just doing this. Sorry. Hi everyone. Welcome to our weekly Q&A sessions. And this is today is with me, Coach Cristian. So it's really nice to meet you again, Coach Cristian. And how are you today?
I'm doing great, Veronika. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity.
I'm really glad.
How are you doing? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm rude.
I'm good. I'm great. And I'm really glad that you had the opportunity to change me today, because it was supposed to be Coach Ali here, but unfortunately she couldn't make it today. But I'm really glad that you could jump in. So before we started this video, we were like thinking about what to talk about at the beginning before the real comments come in. And you had a really great story about fear. So I would be really glad if you could share us like your experience.
Oh, sure. So I was thinking about, we get a lot of calls, either one-on-one calls or call on the immunity program when people are discussing why it takes so long to get rid of fear, this fear of insomnia. And I was going on one of my old man walks on the park a few days ago, and I remembered back to, I think it was maybe over 10 years ago, where we moved to Texas, and I wasn't familiar with all the bugs and spiders and snakes that are pretty common in the area. And so I was playing with my kids one day, and I left my shoes in the backyard overnight. And so the following morning, I got up, I went out to grab my shoes, and as I reached out to pick up my shoes, this gigantic, I don't know, maybe about this big, and I'm not exaggerating, right? It was huge. It was called a wolf spider. These things are absolutely hideous. They're big, they're ugly, they're furry. Unbeknownst to me at that time, they are completely harmless. So I wasn't in any danger, but just having this thing crawl out of the shoe and up my hand absolutely put me into a panic. I remember throwing the shoes, running inside, shutting the door, and just sitting there shaking.
Can you imagine?
Oh, it was absolutely horrific. I wish we could post a picture of these hideous things. But anyways, so I remember for days and weeks after, if I would sit anywhere, I would just be very jumpy, very sensitive to my surroundings. Any movement, anything made me so uncomfortable. I remember even at nights going to bed, and if I felt any sensation, any movement on the sheets, I would jump. I would remove the sheets. I would look around. And fortunately, this happened outside, but I was so completely freaked out. My brain was so alert to any movements to avoid anything like it again, right? And it took months and months for me to really just start to be more calm. So interesting. It's been over 10 years, right? Maybe a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I got my shoes muddied on a walk that I was going on with my wife, and my wife was kind enough to wash the shoes, and she put them out back for them to dry. My immediate thought was, okay, I'll make sure that I bring him in a couple of hours so they can dry inside, because I don't want him outside. And I realized all of a sudden, it's like, oh my goodness, this fear, this thing that happened over 10 years ago, I'm still very sensitive to. Mm-hmm. So of course I forgot. The following morning I woke up, I went outside, and I looked at those shoes, and I mean, I felt such a rush of adrenaline, anxiety, stressed out. And I was like, all right, that's it. These have to go in the trash. So I have to admit that, embarrassingly enough, I even asked my wife, I said, can you just throw those in the trash?
Oh my goodness.
I was done. It was over. I couldn't take another chance. I couldn't take another risk. And so that was it for the shoes. It was worth getting another pair. It was no big deal. So what made me realize this is that fear can trigger us so quickly in a matter of seconds, and it can linger there for clearly years and years to come if we don't find a way to approach it or confront it or deal with it. And so when it comes to insomnia is so much more scarier than a moment with this, harmless spider. It causes fear over and over again. It can be very triggering. And so when we see how fear reacts or responds, when we're in the program, even though we're learning and understanding, we have to be kind with ourselves. We have to understand that this is a process that takes time. Now, I don't expect anybody for it to take 10 years. The reason why I'm still very jumpy is because I'm completely not willing to face this fear or have any interactions with this thing. And so when it comes to insomnia, I always tell people, be patient. It's going to take time, and you don't have to wait months or years for you to start sleeping better. Things will improve with time as you confront these fears, as you learn to find ways to befriend wakefulness and learn that even though these feelings, these thoughts, these sensations can feel scary, they're not harmful. They can't hurt us. And so as we start to give ourselves some time and start to build a little bit more of a callousness to these experiences, the nighttime, when it comes, it's not as scary. It doesn't freak us out as much. And so we can really learn to build some tolerance with time. And so, yeah, that experience really made me realize that even though it's been a long time for me, I still have little moments of a bit of an anxiety, a bit of a fear whenever there's any kind of a schedule change. But it's so much more tolerable. I can definitely accept it, and I can get through it without having any major anxiety or panic or fear with it. So that was my spider story.
Thank you so much for sharing, Cristian. And this is a really, really great analogy to insomnia, because this is the same old fear, the same old mechanisms our body is using, whether it's a spider, whether it's a night that is so scary. And what's so tricky about insomnia and what's so scary about insomnia is that it's not about one moment that you encounter with a spider. With insomnia, we face the night, or the night comes whether we like it or not. So that's why addressing the fears is something that we need to work on. Otherwise, that's why we hear these terrible or scary stories, like people, oh my goodness, somebody's just having this fear over and over again for years. And in case it's not properly addressed, like knowing why we are experiencing this insomnia, these fears, this anxiety, this hyperarousal, then it will be really, really hard to get to a point to be at peace with not sleeping at night. So thank you again. And we have a few comments coming in already. So the first question is from Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer. It's really nice to see you here again. I remember you from some time ago from Q&As. And hi, I'm almost year two in my journey, and this free content has helped me so much. So glad to hear this. I would like to fall asleep earlier and wake up earlier. My question is, may this trigger a speed bump? Any advice? So what do you think, Cristian?
Thank you, Veronika. So Jennifer, thank you for the question. Oh, can you put it back up? Is that okay? All right. Thank you. Fall asleep early and wake up early. You know, we've had this question many times before, right? A lot of people are going to adjust their schedule sometimes to maybe after summertime when school starts or for whatever reason. And may this trigger a speed bump? So much of it is how we view the situation, right? A lot of it, anxiety can exist when we decide to make any changes to the schedule. But really, a lot of it too is also so much about how we respond to it. So can it? Maybe. But when it does, the great thing about it is once I realized that speed bumps are truly an opportunity for us to show the brain that we're safe, I actually started looking forward to them. I know it sounds kind of weird and kind of bizarre, but so much of this is about shifting your views on your thought on things. So instead of finding a speed bump as something scary that we want to avoid, or that we're falling backwards, or it makes it now that we're struggling again, when we see it that this is kind of how we get better getting through it, right? Any changes to schedule, going on vacation, traveling, different time zones, the first thought is always going to be fear, because I want to protect my sleep schedule, right? So again, wanting to go to sleep earlier is fear of changing that schedule. So why don't we just allow to just make those changes, recognize that if we're going to have some fear or anxiety, it makes perfect sense. It's understandable. And if we have a speed bump, well, then great, because then we can show our subconscious, our brain, that there is no real fear, that we're okay. And it might take a little bit to adjust. It depends how big of a jump. If it's, from 11 o'clock to 9 a.m., most people are going to have some difficulty making the adjustment. But if it's maybe half hour to an hour, I think it's the fact that we're getting up early is creating a little bit more of a longer day. And so it can build some sleep drive. And I think you can probably adjust to it accordingly with time. But it just depends how big of a jump or time change you're planning on doing. So, Veronika, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. And basically, the less we focus on the time, the easier it gets. Just recently, you have made a video about the timeless sleep window, and I think this is what could be really, really helpful to Jennifer. Just set the new wake up time, and then you can start the sleep window at the new change without really looking at what time it is. This is the most helpful way, because then you are not trying to control and you are not creating unnecessary anxiety once which usually knowing the time in the middle of the night creates. So I think yeah, like I said, basically, the less you focus on what time it is, the easier it gets, and your body is totally able to adjust to basically any time schedule. So this is what I wanted to add.
Wonderful.
And right, we have a question from K Jane. Hi, I have so much hyperarousal to the point my paradoxical insomnia has returned. Do you think implementing a sleep window will help? Please, can I have some tips on lowering my hyperarousal? Thanks. It's like I have constant hyperarousal. So, what do you think, Cristian? Oh, sorry.
No, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the timeless sleep window is definitely a way to start letting go of control. Like I noticed that in my case, I was convinced at first that looking at the time was really important for me, and so what I realized with time was I was just monitoring and tracking, and it was creating even more anxiety. I was creating more stories in my head, right? I started creating a threshold. If I slept under 4 hours, it was going to be a rough night. If I slept more than 4 hours, so there was just this constant monitoring throughout the day. And so the timeless sleep window, again, I shifted my perspective. What I did was I'm going to create a time where I don't have to think about or worry about what I'm supposed to do or what I'm scheduled to do. I start thinking more about what feels best for me, what works better. So my timeless window has been and will probably remain from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. That's something I can do during the summer, during the winter. I mean, it's a perfect schedule for me, and it's very freeing. And so after 10 p.m., I no longer think about what I need to do. I kind of focus more on being in tune to what feels best. And still to this day, I don't get that exhausted feeling or sensation that I used to years back, at 9:30, my kids would start laughing. It's like, all right, man, old man, you got to go to bed now. And at 9:30, I was fighting. 10 o'clock, I just couldn't keep it together. But now what I've noticed is when I stop looking at the time, I can spend time with my family. We can play cards or watch a movie or something. And I don't necessarily feel very exhausted or tired or sleepy, but I just feel like it'd be more comfortable. It'd be better for me to go lay down and rest. And lay down and rest doesn't always mean try to get some sleep. It's just transitioning from one place to another. And when I started doing that, I noticed that a lot of my hyperarousal started to come down. That arousal is there to check and monitor. And so the more we deny the brain this control, the more we can start to kind of feel into what feels more comfortable. And if we don't know how much we slept, we wake up, we fall asleep, we don't know how long we've been awake, we're a lot more neutral to whatever happens the following day. And so I think that might be something that you could really implement. And at first, you'll notice if you start having this struggle of really wanting to look at the time. It's like, think about, why do I need to know the time? The time is, and so the more we start having these feelings or these sensations or anxiety when we want to look at the time, it's probably giving you a lot of information to let you know that this is something that's triggering you and creating a lot of anxiety at night. So it's a very freeing thing to practice. Now I find it like such a wonderful time, because during the day we don't have that, right? We have a schedule to keep. We need to be at work at a certain time. We need to maybe take the kids to school or pick the kids up afterwards or whatever it is. So we are on the clock all day long. How wonderful to no longer be on the clock for at least 8 or 9 hours. I think it's very freeing. I love the concepts that Daniel teaches. So, Veronika, what do you think?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I don't have much to add to the time of sleeping, though. Maybe I would just share a few words on how to lower the hyperarousal. And just like you mentioned, the hyperarousal, it's natural ability of the brain, and it's there to monitor. It's there to help us basically to to basically stay safe, and the naturally you can do some mindful practices, but you have to be mindful about using them, if that makes sense, because the more you're trying to avoid the hyperarousal, the more you're trying to uh, relax and keep calm, the more your brain thinks like, hey, Jane is not listening to me. I have to intensify the hyperarousal. That's why you may end up with stronger symptoms, more anxious thoughts, more hyperarousal in your body, less sleep. And this is because uh, when the hyperarousal, when we are trying to suppress the hyperarousal, our brain is reading, this is not safe, this is not okay, which means that your brain believes that I have to intensify, I have to send it until Jane resolves this issue for me. But if you just allow the hyperarousal, if you can just even talk to your brain a little like, hey, thank you for keeping an eye on me, thank you for trying to keep me safe, then your brain reads this message as, this is safe. Probably I don't have to send this hyperarousal over and over again. And this is the way how to lower the hyperarousal. So there are unfortunately no immediate tips how to push it away. And it requires this internal work and to do it like consistently, right? So I hope we have answered your question,
Yes.
Jane. And right, we have a question from Blanco. Hi, Blanco. After finding Daniel's channel, did you spend a long time watching the content? If so, how long did it take you to let go of constant watching? So Kirsten is already laughing because I think you, just like me, were just binge watching Daniel's content. Like every single video, I was literally waiting which video will be new and out so I can watch it and learn. And I mean, the success stories, I watch them even now. So I really can't say like how much time did I spend watching the content, but after this day, I watch it because I love it, because it gives me this good feeling. All these videos, they are so inspirational. They are full of love and courage and kindness. So it's really like it's they're like so soothing, right? So what's your experience, Christian?
Oh, I was laughing because I was watching so much content, and to support the channel, if I can, I'll post a comment or ask a question, but I always like them. And so sometimes I would go back and watch a video and go, oh, this was amazing, and I'd scroll down, I'm like, oh, I've already liked it, and so I would just keep watching and watching. And I remember anytime I was having these speed bumps, there was 2 videos in particular that focused on speed bumps that were so comforting, and I would watch them over and over, and I was like, I think I can almost memorize the video. I've heard it so many times. So a lot of, again, once again, this goes back to so much how we feel, right? There's once from time to time, there were videos that I felt were a bit triggering. Some people's stories were so difficult, so scary. I was like, I'm not ready. But so much of it was just really so much more comforting for me. So How long? I don't know, because I still watch them. I still am a fan. You can always learn, and all these different experiences of people having. And so it's wonderful. Daniel talks about how we are all unique, but insomnia isn't. And
Mhm.
so the content, so much of it is
Mhm.
other people's versions, how they're going through their own personal struggle, and yeah. So
Yeah.
constantly watching, quite a
What,
bit.
what else comes to my mind is maybe that at some point, maybe you will naturally want some detox from the sleep content, because once you see that all the teachings, they are eventually quite repetitive, that they all go to the same point: either use courage, either use kindness. What is sleep is a passive process, what is hyperarousal, that is here just for our safety. And when you hear this message over and over again, your brain gets it and you're like, okay, this is nothing new for me. So you naturally will let go of, yeah, okay, I've heard this one before. So you will experience it by yourself, like, okay, this was enough of the sleep content. And maybe sometime later you will come back to watch it, but not in the same intensity. It's not for me anymore. Like, I have to see every single video, because there really is a lot of content. There's more than 1,000 euro videos. It's almost impossible to watch them all. But yeah, that's what I wanted to share. That it's like your brain will naturally know when to let go of watching. Okay, we have a thank you note from K Jane. Thank you for your advice. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you for dropping the line. And right, we have a question from Vladut. Hi,
Hello.
Vladut. Uh, Although it's not really my case to believe that people who say that they do not sleep or sleep very little constantly for long or very long periods of time experience paradoxical insomnia. So, what do you think, Christian?
Oh, that's not really my case. You believe that people who, I mean, maybe, because it's hearsay, so we don't know exactly the situation. We don't know, if it's fear based, or maybe they're sick, or they're not sleeping well, or they're dealing with a lot of stressful things going on in their life. So I really couldn't say one way or another. I don't feel comfortable, saying yes or no. Veronica, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, if the like aim of this question is whether it's possible like to not sleep at all, then it's not possible to not sleep at all. Like, then people for sure like experience the paradoxical insomnia, because not sleeping is impossible. This has been well studied phenomena, like that after like 48 hours, your brains, if you need to stay awake, parts of your brain are literally shutting off. So you experience the micro sleeps, but you are still vigilant to your surroundings. And this, like, for example, that people experience, like the truck drivers or somebody who is really exhausted and has to do something to, uh, like, I don't know, just like I mentioned about this is most noticeable when people drive, right? So you just see the lights, but then you just, but I'm driving here, I can't sleep, right? These are really unpleasant moments when it's really time to pull over and have rest. But people who we have in the program, for example, I slept very little, obviously, for many years, but it definitely should have been more, because of this paradoxical insomnia. There were moments that I believed I didn't sleep, but my partner told me like, "Hey, you slept here," or So I I think that for the majority, the paradoxical insomnia happens, but I don't know exactly the case, like what exactly you would like to know, or you
Right.
know what I mean, right? So I hope we have answered your question, Vladut. And we have a question from IFA99. If you sleep with your partner, what are the limited options you had to do while awake so you don't disturb her sleep? So, what were your options, Christian?
My wife went to the guest room.
Okay, kick out your partner.
so and so uh, I'm laughing at this because so many times it happens to a certain point where, especially when insomnia was when in the beginning stages where you're panicked and you're frantic, somebody has to get some rest for the next day to manage the house and the business and everything else. And so what I noticed is while I was dealing with all of this, she started to feel pressure. She started to worry. And so she started to not sleep, right? It became kind of infectious in a way. And so it was like, this is better to just remove, separate. And this went on for quite a while, but when she came back recently, right? She's like, she's like, that's it, we're done. She came back, and I felt a little bit anxious at first, but I noticed that she doesn't go to bed until she's really tired. So she knocks out. So I can watch TV, I can do it just doesn't affect her. So much of it seems about the dynamics of your partner and how, if they're a light sleeper, if they're a heavy sleeper, there's a couple of different variables to consider there. But yeah, for me, the immediate response was, other room.
Right. And my go-to answer would be just listen to a podcast. That's it. Because you don't disturb anybody with listening to a podcast, or I don't know, this shouldn't be a problem, I guess. Okay, and let's answer a last question we have from Happy Chahar. Hi, Happy. While I go to sleep, a thought of not being able to sleep frightens me. Also, I fear, what if I'm not able to sleep tomorrow and day after tomorrow also? My anxiety causes me to lose a lot of hair, which again makes it difficult for me to accept it. Please tell me how to accept it and avoid its symptoms. So, what would be your thoughts, Cristian?
So I hate to do this, Veronica. Could you pop in the first part of the question again?
Of course.
All right, thank you. Not sleeping. Okay, so if you're not sleeping, I think when I realize that I have no control of this, and the more I try to pursue something that I can't control, the more anxiety I get, right? So knowing and understanding, like Veronica just covered, how our body will fall asleep, we'll get some sleep. It's not this wonderful, deep, long, restful sleep, but once we recognize that, and also our brain cannot predict the future. We are so convinced that whatever the negative thoughts are, that they're real. And during my insomnia, even some of the most difficult times, I was like, there's no way I'm going to sleep tonight. I'm super anxious. It's been a super miserable day. And I would fall asleep. And then there was other days where I was like, oh, it's been the most amazing day. It's beautiful, beautiful weather. Everything's wonderful. I feel so peaceful. Didn't sleep that night. So the fact that our thoughts are always going to be more defensive, they're going to be a little bit, I would consider more negative. It's just a way to try and protect us. It's more as opposed to this thought of, we're not going to sleep. I see it more as like this frightened part of us that goes, what if we don't sleep? What would happen? And so this is when we implement a lot of that kindness, the gentleness, that patience, and respond, right? First acknowledge, okay, I'm hearing you. I hear it. And maybe these thoughts can be kind of scary. They can cause me some anxiety. But the truth is that we don't know. We can't predict the future. And one of the most important things for me too was, whenever we feel anxious, when we feel afraid, we don't feel safe. So when we confirm or reaffirm ourselves that whatever's going on, even though this is unpleasant, is uncomfortable, that we are safe. We're going to be okay. We are safe. And so letting go of the things that we can't control, which is difficult, takes some time, but also recognizing that, we cannot predict the future. The brain is always going to go on the worry side, and always treat it like a frightened child, and listen to it, acknowledge it, and then provide it comfort. Because when I talk to people and they'll say, I'm super scared, I'm super anxious at night, and I tell myself I'm fine, I'm great. Because I don't believe it. I go, well, because you're not listening to yourself, and then you're kind of, not intentionally, but maybe lying to yourself. So then the next day, the brain is like, we're scared. And then you say, no, we're not. And the brain's like, come on, this person doesn't even recognize that we're scared, right? So you have this internal conflict. I remember this, I had this call where this person says, I don't trust myself. I go, yeah, because you're always lying to yourself. So maybe when you're scared, when you're anxious, when you're worried, hear it, acknowledge it. Yeah, this is scary. I don't know if I'm going to sleep tonight or tomorrow night. I don't know. But at the same time, we can't predict the future. We're okay. This is scary, but we're safe. So I would take that approach. Veronika, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I'll just maybe talk about the other part of the question, which is my anxiety caused me to lose a lot of hair. Go and talk to your doctor in the first place to rule out any other causes of hair loss. And of course, we cannot. It's really hard to accept something like this. And but I see something like really quite positive here. Like you say, my anxiety causes me to lose hair. It's not my insomnia causes me to lose hair.
Mm.
And I think that's quite an important distinction, because you don't blame the sleeplessness in insomnia, rather the anxiety. And anxiety is the core of insomnia. This is at its core. And that's why you need to work on your insomnia, on your anxiety. You need to work with your fears, with your emotions, with your thoughts. And it's impossible to avoid the symptoms. First, you need to accept them, and then it will change. It will get better. You need to change the relationship to your anxiety. I don't know if I can say it like this, but I've seen you for some time coming here asking questions, which is so wonderful, and really, really glad, happy. However, maybe if you need more consistent support, you can look into our paid options, even if you would only start with the chatbot Ellie, which is for not even $20 a month. So look into this, and yeah, I wish you a good luck on your journey. Happy Tahar. And of course, you are always welcome to join these live Q&As. And I would like to wrap up now. Thank you very much, Cristian, for being here, for coming here today. And I thank you everybody who came also here today, posted questions. And the next Q&A is the next week. So goodbye, everybody.
Take care. Thank you, Veronika.